Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Angler's Outpost. I'm George Shower, your host and master angler. With me as always, Josh Taylor, our wizard on the water.
How's it going, guys?
Hey Josh, I'll tell you what, the time of year is coming. It's coming the fall, and guess what's coming up? Our favorite season.
Absolutely, some of the best fishing right now.
It's going to be striper season.
Yes, absolutely.
I know we've been out a little bit having some fun. We've caught a few of them. Mm-hmm. No monsters yet. Actually, we lost a big one last night, but we won't talk about that
That's
too much.
That's a story for another time.
That's a story for another time. You know, when you think about striper fishing, there's someone that always comes to mind when you think about a master angler for striper.
There is a name floating around.
Well, who would you think?
Oh, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe the name Mike Smedley might come to mind.
That would probably be my one. And guess what? We have him on the show tonight.
He's here.
He is here. Mike, are you with us, buddy?
I'm here, guys.
Hey, welcome to the show, Mike. Thank you for taking time to talk to us.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, really, we really appreciate it. For you guys at home, we're going to do a little montage here, show you about Mike Smedley. If you haven't heard of him, this guy's a great fisherman. Check it out.
Hey, guys. My name is Mike Smedley. I'm a captain of Team Old School Striper Fishing Team. I started fishing in New Jersey before I could walk. I guess about the time I was 15, I started guiding up there for trout, rainbows, browns, Lakers. Looked about coming down south. I wanted to do some striper fishing, and within a few years, I was really hooked on the striper fishing here. I guess I was about 20, and catching striped bass in freshwater. And I caught them up in New Jersey in the saltwater when I was a kid fishing with my grandfather, but I'd never heard of them being in freshwater before until I moved down south. I really attacked it hard. I mean, we went at it probably 7 days a week. I was just completely obsessed with striped bass down here. We started fishing via tournaments. The more we did, the better it got. All we do is striped bass fishing. Freshwater, saltwater, rivers, lakes, oceans, sounds. And I'm really fortunate to fish with really, really good people.
What's up, George and Josh? It's Mike Smedley, Team Old School here. Thinking about dragging the Sea Pro up to PA and slaying some freshwater stripers with you guys. We'll see you soon. Stay old school, boys.
That's a great little piece. I mean, Mike, you really catch some fish no matter where you go. They're always huge. They're always trophies. Talk a little bit about, first of all, Team Old School. What is that?
Well, I'm glad you asked. It's a kind of a saying that me and my buddies came up with years ago. I made the transition from fishing up in New Jersey to North Carolina, and it was not an easy transition. There wasn't a whole lot around. And we really found after a few years that all our success came from really just nose to the grindstone, just putting in the work and putting in the time. And, not asking people where fish were or, radio fishing, as they say.
Right.
We got out there and put the work in. I mean, oh my goodness, all night netting bait, fishing all day and doing it over and over again, just trying to figure it out. And that was the old school way. That was our grandparents did it, and they didn't ask, they didn't beg for permission or anything. They just put the work in. They went and they.
Oh, you cut out.
The old school kind.
We're having some
people see some people see our high-tech gear and they're like, that's not very old school. I said, well, I know that's not really where the saying comes from. It's more of a way of attacking it, any challenge.
Yeah. Now, do you have a regular team you fish with all the time?
We started the team name with the NSBA, the National Striped Bass Association, in 2003. And we fished all the freshwater tournaments all in the southeast. They were doing 75 tournaments a year at one point.
Wow!
And we would do. I think one year we did 30, and that's all over about a 10-month period. And
wow!
Eight or nine different states. Yeah, and each one of those is 3 or 4 days pre-fishing. It's a 2-day tournament. So sometimes we did a week and a half pre-fishing. So it's a lot of work, Yeah. And that's where the name, that's where we had to come up with an official name to use there, and we've been using it ever since because it just fits us. And if you notice in my videos, you'll see the same core group, maybe the same 5 or 6 guys reoccurring over and over again. And those guys are old school guys.
Right.
I can say, hey, we're going to go. Can you be there? And they're like, you just tell me when, brother. And I can count on those people to be there, and whatever I need. We got a flat tire, we throw a wheel bearing, they're going to come help me out.
That's great.
Yeah, they're old school guys, and that's who I like to fish with.
Yeah, you're talking about your videos there. You do some great videos, especially from an instructional standpoint. I know years ago when I was just getting into striper fishing myself here at the lake, and I was looking up on YouTube, best ways to do them, and your name always came up. So you're somebody I've been following myself for a number of years. So it's good to see
great.
that it's good to see that you're willing to share that, because a lot of fishermen don't always like to share their best secrets, and you're very open about what you do.
Yeah, that was something that I really wanted to do. And I'll be honest with you, I can give out numbers, and say exactly where the fish are, and it doesn't hurt my fishing. Mm-hmm. It's you still got to go there and put in the work and catch them, and so I never really looked at it as anything wrong to do. Or I understand you don't want to burn spots that somebody else gave you, and I'm very careful about that because I fish with different people on their water, and burning bridges is no way to build on anything.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, we get a little heat for that once in a while about burning spots, but again, we try to be careful and not disclose too much, just because of that reason. It's different when you're in salt water, but you get some of these smaller lakes.
Yeah, it's a tough balance.
It is.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I know one of the things I wanted to talk to you too, Mike, is certainly your rig. I mean, that is one hell of a beast you got there that you go out there and catch fish on. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, that's a pretty cool story. Like I said in my when we were speaking a little earlier, I'm not sure if we were online or we were just having a conversation about it, but I had my first new boat I bought in 2003, and it was a Sea Pro boat. And I've had beater boats my entire life, from a 12-foot plastic Sears Game Fisher boat all the way up to the big Sea Pro I have now. And so I bought a Sea Pro, and it was 2003. And my goodness, did we beat that thing to death. We brought it everywhere. It was 21.5 foot, just a bay boat, and we would launch at Oregon Inlet in December, the second most dangerous inlet in the country.
Right.
And we go through that thing twice a day, and we would run 25 miles up and down the beach, and we just brought it everywhere. I mean, everywhere. So many miles on that boat, it was crazy. We were tearing up bearings and trailers, and we just went everywhere with it. And Sea Pro, at the time when I bought my Sea Pro was the largest saltwater boat builder in the country. And in 2009, they sold the company. And later on, down the road, the company went out of business. And the original owners, one of them bought the company back. Literally just bought the name. Everything with the company was gone. Bought the name back and brought Sea Pro back. And when I saw that Sea Pro was back, and they're in South Carolina, I'm in North Carolina, I had to give them a call and just see what their plans were and what they were up to, and we hit it off. We wanted to meet for like a 1 hour meeting just to talk about maybe we can do something together, and I was there for 7 hours.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we just had so much fishing stuff to talk about, and we're standing in the parking lot, dark, and we're still talking fishing, so.
That's good.
And they're Yeah, really great guys. I mean, it was just amazing. Everything they wanted to do, we wanted to do, and it was just pure luck that I had a Sea Pro to begin with.
Right.
And it worked out really well. And they said, hey, let's, we want you in a new Sea Pro, for your videos. And they were so generous, over the top generous. They want me in a new boat every year or so, and wherever where I feel like moving up. And the funny thing is, every time I'm in a boat, after a year or so, I really don't want to give it back. I have it, I have it all.
Yeah, you get attached.
Yeah, I have it all rigged.
Well,
An animal pull it next to it, and they'll pull all the gear off, and they do it all for me and everything. But still, it's funny how you get an attachment to a boat.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So right now, we got the first boat they gave me was a 22-foot 8-inch bay boat. It was the serial number 00001 off the line.
Wow. Nice.
Right. And then the next boat they came out with is the 248. It's 24-foot 8 inches. It's a 8-foot 10-inch beam, very wide boat. And we're in that one for about a year and a half now, and they want me in a new one of those already, which I'm happy to take it, but it's funny, you get attached to it and you get things where you want, and the boat smells like fish in all the right places,
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's the beast we're pulling with the Suzuki motor and the Meritrail trailer and the motor guide, and we're just totally rigged out by all those guys.
Yeah, I love the electronics package you have on that too.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, the Simrad stuff is, oh my goodness, every year they put their foot down, on the gas a few years ago, and I mean the first company to bring chirp sonar to sport fishing. They're just pioneers in so many ways, and I love how aggressive they are. Some people get a little upset when they finally get the money for that new unit, and then 2 years later another new one comes out.
But that's the way it goes. That's the whole electronics industry is like that.
Absolutely.
Sure. And you got to be aggressive, and they're not afraid to be aggressive and try new stuff, and it's just, we've been very fortunate, very blessed, and we are just very happy, and we want to include as many people in it as we can. That's why we take so many people fishing, and we love fishing with good people. And like I said, fishing with good people is way more important than catching fish.
Sure.
I know it sounds funny, cliche. It's just, hey, I'm 46 years old. I've been doing it long enough to know that it's a good day on the water, with good people, and that's what we look for, and I'll just call and we talk to different, captains and guides, and they're all really cool because I can say, hey, I want to come up and do this on your water, do it your way, but I got to bring all my stuff. Is that cool? Oh yeah, fine. Bring it, let's go. Yeah. That's a sign of a good captain. He'll catch them no matter what, even if stuff he's not used to. And if anyone is a little not sure about that, then that's fine too. But they're probably just not for us. We're just looking for those guys that really don't care, and it's more about catching fish with good people. And like I said about the core group of guys you see, you may see some core captains like Joe Marciano from Wicked Tuna, and Striper Steve Knight down in South Carolina, and a few other guys, and they're the guys that have the same kind of mentality we do, and they're the old school guys, and I can't wait to come up and fish with you guys, because I can tell right now you're old school crew. We got to get out there. And you need to show me some stuff up there.
We may be a little more old school than you realize once you get up here.
Sounds good to me.
Awesome.
That'll be a lot of fun.
So talking about...
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
You do most of your striper fish in saltwater, it sounds like, correct?
It's funny. I'm about 50-50. I was a lot heavier. I was probably about 80% freshwater for a while. And I'm about 50-50 right now. And only reason is freshwater is right here. And I think that's why there's so many more freshwater striped bass fishermen, because it's all across the country.
Right.
You can catch them in rivers, lakes. I mean, some of the biggest fish I've caught in my life have been in 3 feet of water.
Wow.
Those pre-spawn fish, and they happen in rivers, up in freshwater, even if that's a saltwater living fish that he comes up in those rivers to spawn, and that's from freshwater, so.
Yeah, we have the same thing here.
Well, that segues quite nicely into, I actually have a couple of questions for you, Mike, if you want to shoot through those really quickly. I could, feel free to answer them as quickly or as thoroughly as you'd like.
All right.
But on the note of what we were just talking about, what do you find the differences between targeting stripers in saltwater and freshwater?
Good question. Freshwater striped bass fishing is way harder than than saltwater. Freshwater fishing can really humble you.
Right, for sure.
Yeah, and saltwater is. The reason I say it's easier is because there's always that. The group of fishermen that have found the fish, and there's reports, and striped bass like to hold in certain areas at certain times, and once the crew finds them, and once all the fleet gets on them, it's not too hard to find them after that. And they're supposed to be at certain times a year here or there, and each year is different, of course, with weather and storms and temperatures and all that stuff, but basically they're going to be in 2 or 3 spots every time of year, that certain time of year, and we can kind of get in those areas and start catching fish one way or another. Now the same can be said for freshwater fish too. They're going to be in certain areas certain times a year, but there is no fleet. You're always on your own, and if you have to go by your notes, and it's still, they're just so sensitive in freshwater, I believe. I think
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, they can just be anywhere, and they move. It's not like largemouth bass fishing where the three of us could get together on a largemouth bass lake we've never been on, and I promise you we can catch a couple fish.
Yeah, sure.
It may only be maybe one or two, but that would be a bad day. One or two, largemouth bass. Right. Where one or two stripers isn't necessarily a bad day in freshwater.
Not at all. Not at
all. So once you get on them, and you can have some of those 80 fish days in freshwater, and especially when you're schooling and it's hot and you're down below your electronics, looking for the cooler water. Numbers necessarily aren't hard to get sometimes, but for good quality fish, it's very hard. It's a lot harder than freshwater, than saltwater. I know guys that have caught 50-pound, 55-pound, pushing 60-pound freshwater striped bass.
It's enormous.
And now when I say freshwater, it's the same fish.
Right.
It's just the same striped bass that's in a lake or whatever. And we've caught many 40-pound striped bass in fresh water, and I caught one over 50 in my life.
Wow.
But I might live another 40 years and not see a 50 again, personally.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely. Yeah.
Where in saltwater you have a much better chance. I might never catch a 50 in saltwater either, but if I had to place a bet, I would feel more confident saying that I can do it in saltwater than fresh. And you can catch them in. You guys know what it's like in freshwater. You guys go wear them out one day and come back the next day and they're gone.
Oh, that's right. Absolutely.
I think random sums it up perfectly. I mean, just when you think you've got something figured out and you've caught fish a couple of days in a row, boom, they are nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that is, and I guess that's why a lot of people, striped bass fishermen in particular, hold their secrets, tight to the vest, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I have such an incredible amount of respect for a man that'll look me in the eye and say, I wish I could help you, but I work too hard for this and I'd rather not tell you.
Yeah.
And I would just love to hear that from someone other than giving you the runaround or whatever. I know it's hard because you don't want to say no say no to people, but it's totally understandable. If you've been around long enough and doing it long enough, you'll understand if someone says they'd rather not share info.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that actually that kind of what we were talking about before. We were talking about the bigger fish. It segues quite nicely into the next question, which was, what is your personal best freshwater striper and saltwater striper?
My personal best in freshwater is almost 52 pounds.
Wow, massive.
That was caught in Tennessee, and there's a lot of small lakes, a lot of big lakes too in Tennessee. And I caught that fish. There's a lake there that they stock a lot of the lakes up there with rainbow trout.
Right.
And the lakes are always cooler than they are here. And that is where the NSBA used to do a lot of their national championships, the tournaments in Tennessee, because the fishing is just so good and there's not a lot of pressure. It's all full, wide open country. So there's not a lot of big, heavy towns and cities around those bodies of water. And a couple of fishermen found out that they're stocking these lakes with these 10-inch rainbow trout, and these stripers are just gorging themselves on these trout.
Sure. Yeah. It's a buffet.
Oh, you got me there still?
Yep, we got you.
Yeah, so they're stocking these lakes with rainbow trout, and these striped bass are just gorging themselves eating these rainbow trout. And we would fish there in the wintertime, and it's the only reason I can't tell you the name of the lake is because it was somebody else's spot.
Yep.
They hooked me up with years ago, and they said, "Look, meet me up here, and we'll go do some stuff." And we went up there, and we were pulling umbrella rigs. Believe it or not, in the wintertime.
Wow.
9 bait umbrella rigs, and in Tennessee, you have to cut all the hooks off except for 2 in Tennessee.
2 hooks.
Yeah, so if you have 9, you have to cut the hooks off. Basically, cut them all off except for the one long trailer.
Well, they recently lifted that here in Pennsylvania. We can now use as many hooks as we want.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, it was in Tennessee the first. I did it the first year and I wasn't aware of it. So it was, I fished an entire morning. I wasn't aware of the law back then about having to cut the hooks off, and I was pulling 9 bait rigs with all the hooks still on them. And that morning, I caught 2 fish over 40 pounds on one rig. And to see that come up next to the boat, and you're going to net these 2 huge big white bellies come up next to the boat.
I can't even imagine that.
Water. Oh, man, it's something that you'll never ever. You're looking over your shoulder like, who else is seeing this? This lake is so small. I can almost throw a rock across it, and we're catching these massive fish.
Wow!
And we pulled that rig in, and it had 2 giant fish on, and 7 or 8 straightened hooks on it.
Yeah, I bet.
And and that was, like I said, a friend of mine from the NSBA. He turned me on to that spot. I helped him get started in saltwater. So he's I can tell you his name. His name is Dwayne Lamb. He's a heck of a striped bass fisherman. I met him in the NSBA. And I got him started saltwater. And he took his dad fishing there and caught a mess of 25, 30-pound fish. And then when we shipped over to Chesapeake, he met me out there, and we fished together out there. And 5, 6 years later, he bought a house out there.
Nice. Real nice.
He's got a house sitting right there in Chesapeake. Yeah. So like I said, meeting good people, that network is valuable,
It sounds like you got a few good spots to go to.
And I'll hit you off with one more question, Mike. If there was no striped bass and you had to fish for something else, what would it be?
Good question. Let me think on that for a second. Ooh. I would say red drum.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's a real good answer.
Yeah. North Carolina, there's some incredible drum fishing here. Big, giant cow drum. And there's a lot of good spots for here. Pamlico Sound, the Albemarle Sound. And it's not very far from me. It's between me and the Outer Banks. And I've caught some just small ones, the 20, 30-pound range that want to melt your bearings.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, incredible fighting fish. So I would say redfish for sure. That's a good question.
That was a really good answer.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I've been down fishing for them once in the Carolinas. I was never lucky enough to hook up to one, but that's on my bucket list of things to do is head down and do some drum fishing. Definitely.
Yeah.
I recently just lost one down in Texas. So.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Well, I got some buddies that do it all the time down here, and anytime that might be a trip we need to do together as well.
Oh, there you go.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We can definitely film that too. Put a nice show on.
Yeah.
So, Mike,
that would be great.
Your favorite techniques? I mean, I'm sure you have a full basket of tricks, depending on what the conditions are. But what's your favorite way to go after these stripers? From what I can see, and I may be wrong, I think chunking's probably one of your favorite styles.
Saltwater, I love chunking. I think I catch the biggest fish that way. There's just something about, cruising around, marking your fish, finding those areas and, setting up on them and just being real quiet and just waiting to hear that rod scream,
Oh, yeah.
And it's just something so cool about that. And in freshwater, it is pulling planer boards in the creek.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a method that I learned down here, and I never knew anything about it up north. Yeah, it would have come in handy up north when I was trout fishing. I would love to. I always said I wanted to go back up in New Jersey and fish those same lakes that I guided when I was a kid, and use the techniques that I learned down here and see. I know they would work. I just know it.
Right.
And the way we drifted for trout up there was, we would. Drift with live herring, and we put 5 or 6 rods out on one side of the boat and drift sideways.
Oh, okay.
And that's how we always did it on Round Valley and Spruce Run up there in New Jersey.
Look at that.
Yeah, we kind of know that area.
So you used to guide on Round Valley?
I guided on Round Valley, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. We've done videos there. I fished my buddy Zach Merchant there. I mean, that's a small world.
Small world, definitely.
Yeah, I'll send you a bunch of stuff. I have my brochures, my guiding brochures when I was there and everything. I'll send those over to you.
That's
Very
amazing.
Cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was when I tried to become a guide there was nobody had an answer. I was only 14 or 15 years old, so we're going back in 1985 or so, and nobody knew if he needed a license or anything.
Gotcha.
Because no one guided up there. Yeah,
right.
So that's right.
So you just did it, basically.
Yeah, I just did it, and my prices were ridiculously low because I didn't care. I just wanted to go fishing, know. And so when I came down here, I learned who the heck did I learn it from? I don't even remember. But what they do down here, and they still do, and we still do every day, is we use these inline planers
And if you fish 6 rods, you have 6 small planer boards out.
Right.
And they have little releases on them, and they slide right down. I know some walleye guys use the offshore boards a lot up north, and it's the same process. The only thing is we're going shallow with these boards, so it's a great wintertime, early spring, late fall, cooler water trick. And when the water is very cold at nighttime, the bait, the shad, and the herring down here go deep, and they'll spend the night very deep. And then as the sun warms up the clay banks and on the points during the day, around noontime or so, it gets a degree or two warmer, and those shad go right up on the bank. I mean, they're in 1 or 2 inches of water just trying to warm up a little bit. And that's where those big bass go to get them. Those big stripers just get in there and just thrash them out.
Sure.
And they start to spawn up in those rocks and the clay banks. So we use these planer boards with no weight at all. And sometimes the bait is only 2 feet behind the board.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and we pull them right up on the bank. And when they're aggressive, the board attracts them. They'll even attack the board sometimes when they're nasty.
That's got to be something to see.
Yeah, and it is cool to be pulling it in the early morning, a little fog lifting, and you're all by yourself in the back of a creek, and just that planer board rippling really slow. Whoosh! And you hear that planer board get ripped back, and that drag screaming is infectious, man. Yeah, so that's my favorite way to catch them in freshwater for sure.
Nice. We do a little bit of trolling too. It's slightly different. Middle of summer, our program is more like deep water under the thermoclines.
Right.
That's your only choice. I mean, they're going deep at that point, or you go with live bait. But
do you use your electric trolling motor for that, or are you trolling with a gas motor?
No, I got a 22-foot boat, a Sea Hunt. So I actually use the drift socks to slow me down, because on a straight troll I go too fast.
Sure.
So I throw 2 drift socks out, and it gets me down about 1.8 miles an hour. Just a nice slow troll. And one of my favorites is bucktails with a nice big trailer on it. Has always worked well for me. And you just get them right underneath the thermoclines, and that's a real good summertime pattern. We have a lot of fun with that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's bait. We're basically using live bait with our boards.
Yeah.
So we use the electric trolling motor, and we go anywhere from a crawl at like 0.2 of a mile an hour, anywhere up to, a mile and a half or 2 miles an hour even. And we've actually brought that method over to saltwater, and that's how we've been catching them on eels in the Chesapeake.
Oh yeah, I hear the Chesapeake eels are like striper candy, especially in the early season.
I had
a big one.
Sure, yeah, and the lower bay. It's funny, that bay is so big. Just in different sections of the bay, you'll find completely different methods from one guy to the next. The lower bay, November, right around Thanksgiving time. Between then and end of December, the guys will be all over the bridge, Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel.
Sure.
And a lot of the guys will anchor or tie off to the pilings at night, and they'll fish through the night along that bridge. And you can catch giant fish along that bridge, but that bridge really attracts good numbers. So if you want to go there to chuck bucktails or even throw, live eels up and work them out of the pilings, you can have some incredible numbers. You can have easily over 100 fish in that 5 to 15 pound range, and there's absolutely a chance for a 40, 50, 60 pound fish because the ocean's right there.
Right.
That bay bridge splits the ocean from the bay. I mean, it's basically the ocean. And just on the inside of the bridge, I had a couple older guys hook me up with the Chesapeake Bay in the early 2000s, and they said, look, just go there and drift your eels and just do it how you do in freshwater. And I said, well, in freshwater, I use trolling motor, and so I went out there the first year, and we fished, and we just kind of drifted like everybody else, and I said, I'm putting this trolling motor down, and we put the trolling motor down and added a couple planer boards, added a float, started putting some lines out, and holy cow,
you loaded
my
up.
Goodness, oh, what a great method.
Yeah.
And it's all eels, no weight really, maybe a light weight here or there, but it's really the freshwater kind of method, but it's in the open water.
Right.
And we would just follow ridges and drop offs and stay on that channel edge or whatever it is, skirt around the shoal or whatever. And once you find what works, you fish those areas. But when we talked about freshwater, how the fish can move so quick, that bay in particular is the same way. It's so big, and the salinity changes, the temperatures change. There's so many things that have to be right where it can be a real hero or zero type of place to fish.
Yeah, but I think you made a really good point there, and that's one of the things I learned with striper fishing is you can take a tactic that works like in the Chesapeake and bring it into freshwater and it works, and that's kind of where I learned my bucktail technique. And you control mojo rigs or anything else that works in the Chesapeake and bring it into freshwater, and it'll work as well.
I agree 100%. Absolutely.
So I think the message there is don't be afraid to change things or try something different, especially if you're not producing. Try other techniques that work and experiment a little bit and have fun.
Yeah, but we're all guilty, myself included. We're guilty of that, of staying in that comfort zone.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Where I've caught the biggest fish in my life on this point with this bait, and that's all I'm going to use. I'm going to kick it till I die. It is hard to do that, and I found that I kind of look back on it. I'll be watching a video or something I made and I'm editing stuff, and I'm like, Mike, why did you do this for so damn long? You know what I mean? You should have changed it up. But you're stuck in that comfort zone. I have a friend, we trolled for 13 hours and not a touch.
Yeah.
Where else did you troll? The same spot. What did you do? We just pulled bunker spoons, and that's all you did for 13 hours? And you didn't get it. I understand it. You look at it and say you shouldn't have done that. You should have tried something else. But I've been there. You're in that comfortable spot.
I think I'm guilty of that once or twice myself.
We all are. It's tough.
Well, any other tips you think for folks that just, I know some people just dabble in the stripers a little bit, but any tips for folks that want to really get into striper fishing that you could pass along?
I would say the most important thing is starting a network with people you can trust, and these people don't have to give up the farm like you don't have to give it to them, but just one or two guys that, hey, here's my phone number, call me if you ever need it, have an extra spot on the boat kind of thing. And you do it with them, and I've met so many cool people at boat ramps, bait shops, and almost everybody is willing and probably hoping that you'll say something to them and maybe even start talking and get a network going.
Sure.
And it's almost never that you talk to someone and they don't want to, talk or somehow work together. They all do, and there's so many cool people in striper fishing in particular, and everyone is they all want the same thing, we're all looking for the same thing. So I really think the network is so important, and it doesn't mean that you have to go bother every single guy out there or get on the internet and beg for stuff. You don't have to do that. One guy here, one guy there, you got a network. Two guys and you got a network, and you fish together, help each other out. And the most valuable thing I have when it comes to striped bass fishing is my network. I've met people all over the country and all over the East Coast anyway, and it's very valuable to me, and it took a while to get there, and I wish I started doing it sooner, so that is and you'll learn so much. Oh my goodness, I learn something every time I fish with somebody new.
Sure.
And if you think you can't, you've already learned it all.
Think again.
You're
right?
wrong.
Yeah,
you're just wrong.
That will never be the case in fishing. That's why I love it. You can never know it all.
Sure.
Yep.
And that's a good point. I mean, nowadays with social media and Facebook, it's easy to get into a group of folks to kick around ideas. So, use the tools that's available to you. And if you got some good folks that are producing, kind of pick their brain a little bit and share the knowledge.
Yeah. I mean, you can learn. I'm telling you, man. I've fished with. There's one guy in particular. He's only been striper fishing 6 years, and I mean that's a good stretch, 6 years, but not. I've been doing it for quite a bit longer than that, and I've learned a few things from him already.
Sure.
Just because he did it a certain way or other, he didn't know any better, or just tried it and it worked. And I was like, that's a damn good idea, dude.
Sure.
I never would have thought of doing that, and then that's how.
Well, that's really good. Well, that music's telling us we're kind of running out of time here, Mike, but we really want to take
all right.
And thank you so much for all your tips. It was great talking with you. And
my pleasure. I'm so glad you guys called.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward. I'm hoping you get up this way and we get out in the lake and get a chance to fish together.
Oh, we're going to do that for sure.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that. So this is kind of going to wrap up the show. We really appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to check us out on Facebook at POG Network and on YouTube at Pocono Outdoors Guy. And we'll see you next time out in the water and go get those lines wet. See ya. Hey guys, if you want to fish a rig like Mike, check out the full line of C Pro boats at cpromfg.com. That's cpromfg.com.